Dear brothers and sisters, many of us feel lonely at some time or another in our lives. Loneliness might come in because as a child we move from one school system to another. As a child you don't have any more friends. As you grow up too, sometimes families are much smaller today than they used to be, and so one might find them to be lonely. As the children leave the home to go to college and for universities, the parents start to feel lonely. And in life we find that times do come in when we are lonely, and it's in those times that we get despondent and we worry and we're anxious because we feel there's no support. There's no one there to help us. And as that happens in our life, then we're always looking for some anchor from where we can get support so that we're able to deal with the ups and downs of life properly. And we generally also, as we pass through life and we have the ups and downs of life, many times we're told that God is with us. And we've listened to that ever since we're young. But we don't feel the presence of God, we don't see God, we don't experience God. And so we think of God as some kind of entity far away, some kind of a presence which is not close to us, which is far away taking care of all the creation that God has created. And we don't find a relationship with God. And so Sant Rajinder Singh Maharaj, who wrote many verses regarding the spiritual path and wrote much about our connection with the Creator and where is the presence of God and how do we reach God, has said very beautifully in one of his verses. He says, "Talib-e jalwa tere dil se bahut nazdeek hai." Talib-e jalwa tere dil se bahut nazdeek hai. Chashme zahir bhi से कोसों दूर हैं अनवार दोस्त कि चश्मे जाहिर भी से कोसों दूर हैं अनवार दोस्त. So when we translate this into English, it is the resplendent light of God is very close to your heart. The radiant friend is far away from your outer eyes. So Sant Rajinder Singh Ji Maharaj is telling us that we who are seeking God through outer eyes, we who think that God can be found in some kind of a materialistic arena, we who use our physical senses of sight and smell and taste and touch or hearing, we always are trying to find God through those senses. And so Sant Rajinder Singh Ji Maharaj is letting us know that the radiant friend, and saints and mystics talk about God as being their friend, as being their one who's very close to them, as being their eternal beloved, as being one who's giving them life and who's giving them light. So Sant Rajinder Singh Ji Maharaj is saying the radiant friend is far away from your outer eyes. So he's saying that when we try to find God with these outer eyes and we try to look for God. And I know in many faiths and traditions we have all these holy places. And in many traditions we'll also ask in our lifetime we should be visiting those places and then we would be attaining nirvana or we will fulfill the purpose for which we come into this world. And so Sant Rajinder Singh Ji Maharaj is saying that with this outer eyes, you could go to any place in the world. You're not going to find God. Because God is not on the outside. God is not to be seen with these eyes. These eyes are only made to see what is made of matter. With these ears, you're not going to hear the voice of the Lord. These ears are only made to hear certain frequencies. It's only in certain band that we can hear. It's very interesting that with our other senses of smell, taste and touch, we also only have a limited experience of those arenas. There's much above and there's much below what we as human beings can experience. And that we know for a fact. Like when we look at each other, we can see a face, we can see a body, we can see the clothes we are wearing, but nothing else. We can't penetrate and see how the heart is pumping, we can't see how the blood is going through the arteries, we can't see how our liver is working, or appendix is working, or the lungs are working, or the liver is working. We can't see that. But then human beings have been able to do research and come up with machinery which can decipher that. Whether it's X-rays, whether it's CT scan, whether it's like MRIs, through those mechanisms we're able to go inside of this barrier which we can't penetrate with our eyes, and we can see that. It's the same thing with the sounds. We only hear certain sounds. It is said that sharks can communicate for thousands of miles in the ocean. These communicate frequencies which are beyond what we can experience. And this is why it's very interesting. Just like a few days back, the weather in Chicago was quite mild. It was in the 60s. And it was just, I think, 4 or 5 days ago that it started going in the 50s and the 40s and 30s. And it's very interesting that before we could even realize that the weather is going to change, one evening you look outside of your window and you see these cranes, after cranes are flying to areas which are warmer. Because they recognize many days before that the weather is going to change, and so that they're moving to warmer places. And so we as human beings have been given our senses to be able to interact with others in this physical world, but other animals and other birds have been given other senses, so that their life could be led in that manner. And so when we use these physical senses, which are only given for us to interact with others that are made of matter, other human beings, other animals, other birds, other fish, maybe we see the buildings, maybe we see the oceans, maybe we see the sunrise and the sunsets. These are all physical activities, and that's all we can experience. But we can't experience God by using those senses. So what do we need to experience God? God is the creator, and when we look at our faiths, we look at our religions, we go back in history, we find that all the great saints and mystics, all the founders of the faith, all those saints after whom these great religions of the world started, they all had an experience of God. They all talked about communion with the Lord. They all talked about their experiences, and when we dig into what their experiences were, all of their experiences were one-to-one in silence. When they had silenced themselves, then they could connect with God. And so it's in that silence where we silence the body and silence the mind and silence these senses which are taking our attention away from ourselves and putting them into the world, that we're able to connect with God. And this is what Sant Rajinder Singh Maharaj is telling us. And he's saying, if you think you'll find God with his outer eyes, that's not possible. He says, Chashme Zahar bhi se koso dur hai anwar. Chashme Zahar bhi means these eyes which are the outer eyes. And koso dur means far away. And anware dos means God, the one who's full of light, the one who brought all this creation. Is my friend full of light, and that's God. And so Sant Rajinder Singh Maharaj is saying, if we rely on our outer senses to know God, to find God, it's never going to be possible. And in the first line he's giving the answer, he's saying, Talib-e-Jalwa tere dil se bahut nazdeek hai. So he's telling us, don't worry, you'll surely find God. Okay. He says that the resplendentness of the Lord is there for you, and it's within your heart. And when the saints talk about the heart, when the mystics talk about the heart, they're actually talking about the soul. They're not talking about this physical heart which is pumping blood. They're talking about dil, They're talking about heart, which is like the soul. And this physical heart is there just to pump blood so that, blood is circulating in the body, and then we keep on physically being alive. So this is not the heart that they're talking about, and there's no other great English word for translation. So the word dil has been translated as heart, but they're talking about the mystic heart, which is actually our soul. Because our soul is the one that gives us life. Our soul is a part of God. Our soul, as long as it's in the human existence, is making this body work well. And we are alive and everything's, we can see, we can hear, we can talk. But as soon as that soul leaves this body for good, which happens at the time of our physical death, then this body becomes useless. We can't see, we can't hear, we can't get up, can't do anything. So saints and mystics are always exhorting us that we need to recognize first that what gives us existence here is our soul. That soul is a part of God, and that soul is totally full of the love and light of God. And so a part of God is within ourselves, and God is within ourselves. And so we need for the two to just connect. And that happens when we silence the body and silence the mind. In another one of the verses of Sant Rajinder Singh Maharaj, he explained this even more beautifully. And he says, मिलेगा रूह को परवाज दे के देख जरा, करीब है उसे आवाज दे के देख जरा. So he's saying, you will surely find God. God is closer to you than your jugular vein. It's our birthright to know God. We all can find God. What we have to do is give a flight to our soul. Let our soul soar into the inner regions. Let our soul be, which is dispersed in the whole body, let us collect our soul here at the seat of the soul, and then with help and guidance, let us go on the spiritual journey. A journey of love, a journey of light. And so as we go on this spiritual journey, then we are going to be experiencing the joys, the beauties of the regions within. And as we cross the physical to the astral, and the astral to the causal, and the causal to the supercausal, and that supercausal to Sachkhand, or the region of all truth, then we will find ourselves to be in the presence of God. And that's where our communion with God will happen. And if we go on a journey, that journey is not restricted to just a few people. That journey is not restricted to a faith. That journey is not restricted to any class of people. That's not restricted to people from one part of the world. That journey within is available to each and every one of us. When we come in the human birth, we have a birthright to know God. It's in the human body that God has given us all the faculties that are required by us to know God. And so we have those faculties which are provided to us, we need to make use of them. It's like if we were sick and we get some medicine from the doctor and we don't take it, we're not going to get well. Many times in life, as the difficulties come in our life, and we all have ups and downs in life, when we get lonely, we're by ourselves, we feel nothing's working. We've all gone through a very rough period with the COVID happening, where everyone was in place in our homes for 2-3 years, and then many difficulties have come in to many people. And it's times of difficulties that we feel like God has forsaken us. We all get that feeling once in a while. Why is God not fixing my problems? What is God doing, fixing everyone else's problem and missing me? So we have that feeling. But we should realize that the difficulty of this life is, and maybe it's a boon in another sense, like we don't know what our karma is. And so there's no way for us to know why we get sick. There's no way for us to know why sometimes things are happening very well and drastic things happen. There's no way to know why actions happen in life which don't have any logic. Okay? And the only way you can explain them is that there are our karmas that we need to play out, and it's not shown to us, and we're unaware of it, and so then we get despondent. If we were shown beforehand, say, okay, you'll have these ups and downs, but these downs will come for a certain time, they'll go away, and then you have some uppers, you have some more downers, and this is what your life would be, then you would lead your life and you would be okay with it. But since we don't know, we're always afraid that when we get a downer, it never go off. But if you look back at your life, you'll find that every time you got sick, you got well also. Yeah. Times do come in all of our lives. It could be physical pain, it could be mental problems, it could be emotional problems. We all go through times of also spiritual pain that we have there's no way for us to know where that comes from, why it comes in. And so when we have faith in God, then we should have faith that each and every aspect of our life is controlled by God. And then we should know that whatever is right for us is what is going to happen in our lifetimes. We do our very best to make our life better. Okay? We've been given 25% free will. It's not that all of our life is preordained. So our job as a human being is to do the very best in all circumstances. Whatever those arenas are, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, we need to do our very best. But don't tie ourselves to the results. It's when we put in an effort and when we tie ourselves to the result and the result is not what we expect, then there's turmoil. If you work very hard, let's say you're studying, and you work very, very hard, and your goal is to come first in the class, but unfortunately, let's say you don't come first, you get like third or fourth or fifth or second. It's not that we should be devastated. We should know that we did the very best that we could, and we keep on doing the very best. Many times when we have one failure, we give up. And that thing about try again is very, very true. We should never give up. We should do our very best to go for what we think is right for us. But then God really knows what is right for us. And God gives us the results which are proper for us. And we should have faith in God that whatever we've received is what is going to be the right thing for us. And so saints and mystics are always telling us that God, the Creator, is always there for us. We can see God, we can meet God, we can hear God, we can be one with God. All we have to do is not use our outer eyes or our outer ears or our outer senses. We need to go for the spiritual flight. We need to go for the flight of our soul. We need to go within. That God is within each and every one of us. And this is what Sant Rajinder Singh Maharaj is saying, that the resplendent light of God is very close to your heart. That light is within us. And so to know God, we don't have to run to this part of the world or that part of the world or that part of the world. Wherever we live, God created this whole universe. Every place is holy. If God created this universe, how can any place not be holy? It didn't come by itself. It wasn't like two big stars collided or two planets collided and the earth came up. So there's some kind of a plan, a divine plan which we are not aware of. But God put us all here. Everything that God has created is holy. There's nothing that God has created can't be holy. Everything is holy. So it doesn't matter where we sit to know God. God is in each and every atom. And it's very interesting. And this is the world of science. And today, science as it's unraveling its research into matter, is coming to the things that saints and mystics talked about thousands of years ago. When I was going to school, it's about 60 years ago, we were taught the smallest particle could be broken down into molecules, which could be broken down into atoms, and which had electrons and protons and neutrons in them. We were just taught that matter is solid, everything solid, because the instrumentation in those days was such that you can only see matter till that level. We didn't have all these big atom smashers, and then a couple of researchers right in the Chicagoland area, Fermi Lab and all these other labs, which big atom smashers, which they've been able to break the atoms. So we were taught that all matter is solid. Okay? But today, as the advancement has happened in technology, they've been able to break those small particles, and they're now talking there are 12 quarks. At least they were talking about 10, 15 years ago. And then they're saying that these are not solid, these are like dancing packets of energy. It's a vibration. And what do you think is the holy word? It's a vibration. What is the Shabd or the Naam? It's a vibration which is within ourselves. And saints have been talking about that for thousands of years, that the whole universe is based on this vibration, whether you call it the holy word or the Naam or the Shabd or the light and sound of God. The light and sound of God are the two primal manifestations of God. And this is why in any place of worship you go, you'll see symbols of light and symbols of sound. Whether you light candles there, whether you ring bells there, these are the two signs that you see in practically all the faiths, in all the places of worship of various religions. And now they are relating to the light and sound within. But what happens is we'll go to a place of worship, we'll light a candle, we'll make a prayer, say, we're done, we did our job. Now God is going to take care of everything. Yeah. Or we go there and we listen to something, say, oh, we're done. What is important is what is the esoteric side of each one of our faith, with the inner side. You look at the lives of the saints and messages, they all talk about their journeys within, the flights of the soul. And that is what brought them the communion with God. And that is what is available to each and every one of us. So when we sit in silence, whether you call it meditation, whether you call it prayer with attention, whether you call it going within, whether you call it inversion, that process is what leads us closer and closer to God. Because God is within ourselves, and as we take our attention away from the world outside, and as we sit in silence, we silence the body, so the body is not distracting us. We silence the mind, so the mind is not distracting us. It's then that we are able to connect with the divine power within. And those who are able to do that are the ones who find the connection with God getting stronger and stronger and stronger every day. The key is to be able to find the connection ourselves. We all have a one-to-one connection with God. And we need to find that for ourselves, and we can do that while being in our faiths, by staying in our countries, by living in our homes, and by being able to find the time to silence our body. So these five senses of sight, of smell, of taste, of touch, and of hearing needs to come within. So what we do is we find a quiet place to meditate. So if the place is quiet, then the sense of hearing won't distract us. We generally sit down, like, thousands of who are here can sit down and meditate at the same time. What we need to do is make sure no part of our body touches the person next to us, because if they would move, then we would be distracted. So a sense of touch is withdrawn. We're definitely not going to eat as we meditate, so a sense of taste is withdrawn. We don't change the atmosphere. We feel that the whole atmosphere is holy. God created this whole earth, every place is holy, so that a sense of smell is withdrawn. So there's no need to light incenses and other things. And then we close our eyes. As we close our eyes, then the sense of sight is withdrawn. So to withdraw these five senses is very easy. Find a quiet place, sit down, close your eyes. What happens as soon as you close your eyes, you are bombarded by thoughts. The saints tell us the thoughts are coming from the mind. The mind doesn't want us to know God. Mind wants us engrossed in the outer activities of this world. And mind is sending one thought after another after another. A thought could be of anything. And as soon as we get a thought, we are enamored by the thought, our attention goes there. So the key is to get to a state of no thoughts, and that happens by taking the energy of our mind and focusing it on God. So we use the mind to repeat God's name. We don't do repetition of God's name by our tongue, we do it by our mind. We do a mental repetition of God's name. So as we close the eyes, we start to repeat God's name mentally, whatever God we feel comfortable with. Repeat God's name mentally. As we focus our attention on God, then the mind does not have the energy to send thoughts to us, and it's in that state that light will sprout forth in front of us. And as we connect with the light and as with time, we'll find that in the beginning, what happens is that the light will look like it's coming and going, it's flashes of light, it could be circles of light. And what actually is happening is that the light is not coming from the outside. The light of God is within each and every one of you. When you concentrate, you experience the light. When you're distracted, you experience darkness. And so in the beginning, since we can't concentrate totally, so to us it looks like flashes of light. And then with time, as the concentration improves, to us it seems like the lights have stabilized. And then with time we can go beyond the lights, to a sky full of stars, in a moon, in a sun, and then to a radiant guide who can guide us into the inner spiritual region. So the key is to still the body and still the mind and be able to get to a state where the body is calm and the mind is calm so that we can go on the spiritual journey. And this is journey of light, this journey of love, this journey which puts us in a state of joy and bliss will last for much, much longer periods than the time for that we meditate. So let us just meditate for a few minutes, so some of you who are new here can get a taste of what it's like. Close your eyes very gently. Have your eyeballs be focused straight in the horizontal plane as if you're looking 8 or 10 inches front of you. Just like in the homes, if you're watching TV, your eyes are glued to the TV. So just look right in the horizontal plane. And as you close your eyes, those of you who have been initiated in the mysteries of the beyond, please do your Simran. And those of you new here, please repeat any name of God that you feel comfortable with. Now, this repetition of God's name should be done mentally and not out loud. Right in front of you, with time, light will sprout forth. So keep your gaze right in the middle of your experience. And with time, many, many other vistas of light will open up for you. I pray to God Almighty and to the three great spiritual masters of the past century, Hazur Baba Saban Singh Ji Maharaj, Param Sant Kripal Singh Ji Maharaj, and Dayal Purush Darshan Singh Ji Maharaj, to help each and every one of us connect with the divine power within and to experience the light in its effulgence. We'll be sitting for a few minutes. I'll be getting you out of this meditative state at that time. And my best wishes are with each and every one of you. please leave off.